Welcome to VCs Off the Record. This is Real Talk with Real Investors. Your host, Gayle Jennings-O'Byrne, CEO of Wocstar Capital and co-founder of the Wocstar Fund, has spent 30 years in finance. And I'm here too. I'm Victoria Bird. I'm the Chief Content Officer and Creative Director of Wocstar Media. And I've spent 30 years in media. We champion female entrepreneurs. We champion diverse teams, and we're both passionate about stories that change old narratives. We're looking to inform you, inspire you, and help you get your bag and your dreams.
Hey, welcome to VCs Off the Record. This is Real Talk with Real Investors. I'm your host, Gayle Jennings-O'Byrne. Hey, Wocstar.
Hey. Good to be back. Good to be back.
Yeah.
I know. I understand today we have like another sort of superstar, Wockstar-y kind of girl coming in. Woman. I shouldn't call her girl. Tell me about her and why we are talking about community with her.
Yeah, so Megan Ruan is amazing. She is the general partner of Gold House Ventures. There's other programs under Gold House, which you guys will get to hear about today. She is also a proud member of New York City Economic Development Corp's Venture Access Alliance, which is a citywide initiative in New York City. So I'm really glad to have her and showcase her as part of Venture Access Alliance. But more than that, and she's also a Forbes she's a Forbes 30 under 30. Which is a lot younger than me, because I just...
But you just got in there.
Yeah, I was
50,
going to say,
okay.
I got 50 over 50, which I am
Forbes
pleased
50
by.
over 50.
Yes, 55 and
take the flowers.
Fabulous.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, 55
it's fabulous.
and fabulous.
I'm over 50 and I'm on no list.
I love the 50s. I love aging.
Okay.
No, I do. I feel like I know myself more.
Yes. Emotionally, psychologically.
Yeah.
It's the physical. It's the physical that, my knees creak.
Yeah, I got the creak. I know the creak.
I'm wearing glasses that are,
but we're wearing fashionable frames. So I'm okay with that too. Yeah. Okay.
50,
Forbes 30 under 30 is Megan.
Yeah. That's so impressive.
Yeah. Oh, wait till you meet her. So she's an investor. She's a community builder. She creates these spaces for founders. And she and her community have raised $1.5 billion. I'm not going to say more about it. You're going to have to hear it, and everyone stay tuned.
Wait, say B with a B. Billion with a B.
Billions. That's right. 1.5 billion.
Yeah.
Her community of founders have raised. Think about that capital going to the Asian Pacific community and the companies they are building with that capital.
I mean, because can you raise capital without community?
No, and that's why we're talking about this. Because I had a moment where I was like, we keep talking to venture capitalists and investors, but what we haven't talked about is that it really comes back to that. It takes a village. It's a community. And we have to start activating that community. It's so important. One, it gives validation. There's intros, there's talent, there's access in different parts of our community. And if we don't tap into that, shame on us.
Yeah.
So we need to stop for a moment and have this conversation. So I'm so glad she's coming in to be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so let me just put this in context so people understand. How hard is it to raise money? Like a 1 to 10?
10.
10, okay.
10, but here's why. Because every decision around capital for an investor looks different. So the decision tree that you go through, the decision tree that another investor goes through looks different. And where you on-ramp to have that conversation and be part of that decision and build that trust that says, I'm going to write that check, looks different. And so there's a lot of homework that has to be done. This isn't something that's done in mass, in a mass market way. It's about those human connections. It's about that trust. I would say it's a 10.
So if you do it with a strong community behind you, does it drop it down some?
That's right. Yeah. Because now you've got a community that can validate you, can get you into the rooms where you need to be, can get you in front of their friendly faces. So often we're going cold calling, right? I got to a point where I was like, I'm only going to meet with friendly faces. And you're going to hear about how for Megan, it actually was the community that said, we need you to build a fund. It wasn't her just sort of waking up one day and being like, I'm going to start a fund. Community is really important. So I can't wait for you all to hear that.
And then one final thought, when I was looking up her company, she also, like us, has a storytelling focus.
Yeah.
And that connection to it was almost like it was like, yeah, see, you know what I mean? Like they understand just how we understand that the stories have to change.
That's right.
The narratives have to change, and that then informs how willing people are to invest.
That's right. Yeah. You know, listen, it would be easy just to have started a venture fund and leave it at that. Think how much more sleep I would get, less dark circles under my eyes. But I realized at different intervals, we needed to help the founders be ready for the capital that I knew would come to them. And they needed to be ready for how they go and raise the capital so it wouldn't be such a soul-draining experience. But I also realized in our raising capital that it's the stories that helped connect what I was doing with what the investors wanted to see done. And it wasn't all the pretty stuff that was on the deck and the pictures and the graphs and the economic tables and the return models. It was the stories and how we connect on that level. And so beautifully, you said yes when I told you my dream of Wocstar Media and what it could be. And I'm excited. We're going to have you on the podcast in a different way. And hopefully more people will come to the lunch and learns that you have been doing.
That we've been doing, yeah.
Because, the Wocstar Media model and what Megan's doing with Gold House is about storytelling. And its time has come. We've got to change the narrative. And listen, I'm not saying we need documentaries around famous, inventors of color. I mean, it can be just a beautiful rom-com, but just how it's told and what lens it's coming from and what perspective can be beautiful, right?
I think in the research I saw that she was involved with Crazy Rich Asians,
That's
the
right.
movie. That was one of the first films that really put its foot down with how they were going to talk about their community. And I think that we saw the power of that. We saw the financial power of that because people showed up to that film. And not just in their community, but in other communities.
Well, we showed that if you tell a good story,
we're going to show up.
The audience will come.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right,
but it was also a lot of micro decisions, right?
Right.
Like
not just the actors, but the producers, the writers,
the writers, the staff, the costumes, the stories, the personalities of people. Right. Everything is these micro decisions that, when you stack them up, create real power in the story.
Yeah. All right. I can't wait to hear from her. A. B. We're going to take a break. We'll be back.
See you soon.
This episode of VCs Off the Record is brought to you by Wocstar Ghetto Film School Entrepreneurial Academy.
Hey, Wockstars. My guest today is Megan Ruan. She is fabulous. You can hear all about that. She's also a member of the Venture Access Alliance, which is an initiative of New York City's Economic Development Corp. And she has built something really amazing that I'm going to let her tell you about. But I'm so excited you're here. I feel like we know each other, but we just haven't had coffee talks. So I'm glad we're doing it today.
I am so glad. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I love that there's more of us in this VC space. But that wasn't where you started. You're a Minnesota girl. You worked at Morgan Stanley, you worked at Johnson & Johnson. What was the trajectory? And in that moment where you're like, yeah, I can do this. I'm going to build this amazing thing called Gold House Ventures.
I don't know if there was a single moment. I think, growing up in the Midwest, the idea of a professional career was introduced to me pretty late in life. Through college, I learned what an internship was. I learned what working at a big financial institution was like. And I think, Morgan Stanley was a great launch pad, but also I felt a little swallowed. It's like a huge organization. I think the unique part of my job there was that I was on a team that worked specifically with family offices and ultra high net worth clients. And I think that's a pretty niche segment for the random person off the street. And so it gave me the opportunity to then go work at an actual family office. So I spent a number of years as an investor on behalf of the Johnson & Johnson family in New York. I ran their venture capital portfolios, multi-billion-dollar portfolio. And through it, I got to know pretty much every top Silicon Valley fund in North America, a lot of funds also in Asia Pacific. And one of the things I realized was how much power asset allocators have to shape the future and the destinies of founders and the types of companies that they build. And one of the things that was frustrating to me was even in a large platform like that, you don't always have the freedoms that you want to back the kinds of fund managers and founders that you really identify with. And I had done a lot of research, both while I was at Morgan Stanley and then also at the Johnson Company, on the benefits of investing in diverse fund managers, emerging managers. And when I had the fortune, and we can go into the whole story of how I got introduced to Goldhouse, of seeing a platform that could basically be a blank slate to build that type of venture platform, I had no other answer but to jump at it.
I love that. And what a great experience you had. I think you called it a niche area of working with family offices and ultra high net worth individuals, but I think it's a really great perspective that you saw, and it's led to this, which is amazing. On social media, in the news, that number 1.5 billion keeps coming up. And I love as a woman that number is attached to you. Will you break that down for us and tell us what that number is for our listeners and what that journey was like?
Absolutely. I think we're actually somewhere close to 2 billion now. So very
Even
exciting
better.
To be moving onwards and upwards.
Fabulous.
But one of the things that as an early stage investor, you track very closely is the follow-on capital that your portfolio companies raise. Because it is not only a measure of the companies continuing to grow and raise more money, but also the ecosystem and other investors kind of believing in what they're building and wanting to like hop on board with you. So that's something that we've tracked very, very closely at Goldhouse, and I'll kind of back up and give some background. But before I started Goldhouse Ventures, we ran a program that was actually an accelerator. And that accelerator was run under the umbrella of the Goldhouse nonprofit. It was a program that we ran initially fee-free, equity-free. Now it's part of our fund. So we invest, we take equity in the companies. But since 2019, we've been running that program on a biannual basis. We work with, a handful of companies, each cohort. It's very, very hands-on, and it's meant to be very white glove. We do a lot of advising, providing resources, masterclasses, that type of thing. But then we also help those companies raise capital. And the 1.5 now edging up to 2 billion number is a measure of the amount of capital that are now 115 or so alumni from the company have raised in the last 3.5 to 4 years.
That is fabulous and amazing. One, I love that you're tracking that number and showcasing that success, not only for yourself, but for the founders. And it's so important because, and if you don't mind me calling you this, I mean, you're really about system change as opposed to just being an individual entity that's working with, a finite number of companies. And so really what's happening is you're getting other capital to move to your community and to the founders that need that capital and are going to do great things with it. So that's a real testament, numbers like that. So amazing. Amazing. We need to celebrate.
We're very proud. We're very, very proud of our founders.
Yeah, very cool. And I love too that you started with the program because it really probably gave you an appreciation for like who's out there, what they're building, what their capital needs are, as opposed to just saying, I'm going to just go do this and if I build it, they will come. But you really sort of started with sort of a founder's first mindset. So I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. What was the hardest thing going from having a program to having the venture fund? And maybe for our listeners, will you tell them the different components? Because there's a couple things under the Goldhouse brand.
Yes.
That you guys do. Will you share some of that?
Let me give some background about Goldhouse and why we actually built a venture fund. So Goldhouse at our core, our mission is advancing the Asian diaspora and bringing unity and promotion to this minority, but quickly growing minority here in North America, that is also the world's majority. We're 62% of the world's population. And so I think our ultimate goal is to build those bridges, not only between the Asian diaspora here in the US, but also globally with Asia Pacific. So a lot of the work that we do is not just on the economic empowerment side. Of course, that is like my singular focus. But we've done a ton of work in Hollywood, entertainment, and media in reshaping narratives, public opinion about how Asians are portrayed in the media and television and film. And so I think we've been able to take a lot of those relationships with C-suite executives and founders and Hollywood celebrities and leverage it towards helping our founders. So that's part of why we have such a diverse array of programs for entrepreneurs. We can help founders at the earliest stages because we have amazing advisors who've built companies themselves or invested in companies who are willing to pay it forward. We can also help companies that have already built a solid foundation expand and grow their customer base and really grow their top line, get acquired or go public because of our relationships across the business and tech industries. So the programs that we have specifically for founders, the flagship was our Accelerator program, which continues to run to this day. We're actually partnering very closely with the Venture Access Alliance to recruit more founders here in New York City.
Awesome.
And that program is a 10-week accelerator. It's delivered hybrid, a mix of in-person and virtual programming. So it's masterclasses, it's getting one-on-one advising from industry experts. It's actually getting seed capital. So we invest $250,000 into the companies that are selected for that program. And that is a sleeve of our investments. The bulk of our investments, however, we do by partnering with other funds across the ecosystem to invest in their top Asian Pacific founders. And the reason for this is twofold. It always is with Goldhouse.
No, I love this. Listen, we're multi-dimensional, so I love this.
On the one hand, we're looking to invest in a financially regenerative asset class of founders. And if you look historically at the performance of Asian Pacific founders over history, you find that actually a third of unicorn startups had at least one Asian or Pacific Islander co-founder. That's huge. That's compared to 6 to 7% of the population.
That's huge. We got to get that stat out there because this is storytelling. This is stories and stats we need out there.
That's a huge part of what we do.
Yeah.
If you look at the investor performance, we're also 40+% of the Forbes Midas list of top early stage investors year after year.
Yeah,
which is a global measure, right? But it's a lot of those investors are global investors who invest here in the US. So we have...
You and I are going to be on there one day, but yes, we know the list.
One day, not so far in the future. So we care a lot about the fact that there's success, but then we care about a representation gap in the sense that Asians are also the least likely to be promoted to Fortune 500 C-suites and boardrooms.
That's right.
So we want to close that gap by identifying those founders early on, investing in them, either through our accelerator, through our fund, and then giving them the resources so that they retain the ownership, the control, the influence over those companies as they grow.
Yeah. I love the intentionality of it. And so let me make sure I've got this correct. The investing side of it, you do it in conjunction with other funds.
I can break that down a little bit further, actually. So our core strategy is something that we call returns-driven, affinity-powered. So the affinity piece comes because of Goldhouse's brand. And we have a brand in the industry as being the market leader in promoting Asian Pacific stories, businesses, creators, and companies. Founders, and also oftentimes their lead investors, are attracted to that. Maybe because they want representation on their cap tables, but oftentimes because they want access to Goldhouse's network, because they actually think that those celebrities, those executives, those founders and other investors can be helpful to their company or to their portfolio companies. And so that's why they bring us on, and that's why we're able to partner with top-tier funds and invest in their top-tier Asian founders. So that's the affinity piece of it. The returns piece comes from the fact that our fund is also very mission-driven, and the returns that our fund generate in terms of the carried interest, the management fee, that goes to support Goldhouse Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit.
Gotcha. So 2 things in there, listeners. One, I don't know if you picked up on Megan's talking about this, but really you're a testament to the power of community, right? Like this is about a community, and how do we use that power, that representation, that presence across different industries and activate it, right? So A, I heard that in what you said. And then B, I love that you spoke from a place of real returns, real economic, real finances, right? Because I don't know, do you ever get this, you like walk into a room, it's like, hey, here's Joe, he's a VC, and here's Gayle, she's an impact investor. I'm like, what the, like I never said that. Who said that?
It is the worst possible framing.
And
of
no
something
offense to those
is
that are impact investors.
Truly a double bottom line or triple bottom line, however you want to define it. I think one of the things that one of the reasons that we started a fund, a proper venture fund, spun out as a separate for-profit entity, is that we wanted the accountability, and we wanted to be accountable to limited partners who were 100% returns driven, right? We wanted to be backed by family offices, foundations, endowments, individuals who were looking for a return. And they could have very easily donated to the Gold House nonprofit, but instead they chose to invest in a venture fund that they knew would generate a return, but also at the same time benefit a cause that they believed in.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that's exactly how we approached it with Wocstar as well. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, winners love winners. And so if we can show success, that's just going to support the entire community as opposed to showcasing charity. I'm going to stick on the fund for a little bit more because this is a little bit of a reverse pitch where we want to make sure that founders know about you, about the fund, because they spend so much time trying to figure out who we are, right? I mean, I don't get me wrong, I love our website and I love the team that put our website together. But if you're a founder,
find out so much.
Yeah, so it's still hard to know who we are. So help our listeners know a little bit more about the fund. Because many of them are raising capital. What things do you invest in? What size checks? I'll ask you a few more questions after those two.
So we are focused on primarily seed and Series A companies across industries. We call ourselves generalists. I would say the bulk of our investing is consumer tech, enterprise SaaS, fintech, healthcare, e-commerce, those types of things. Okay. We are generally not investors in super R&D heavy industries. So things like biotech and hardware have a bit of a higher bar for us, but I think that's true of most generalist
And those
funds.
are capital intensive.
Very capital intensive, exactly. So everything else is pretty much fair game. In terms of what we look for, I actually think as an early stage investor, I care much more about two things with the founder. One is their storytelling ability and their ability to sell to their customers, their investors, their employees. And the second thing is proximity to whatever industry it is that they're building in. I think we're kind of moving out of a phase of generalist founders just putting business principles onto, antiquated problems. Yeah. And I find myself increasingly attracted to founders who have worked in the industry that they're building for before. Let's say a construction tech startup founded by two former general contractors. That's much more appealing to me than an ex-consultant going in and saying, I'm ready to solve this problem with my spreadsheets.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that our listeners got to hear that. What size checks? Right. And also, what's the best way to meet you and get to know your team?
So we typically, at the seed stage, write checks anywhere between $250,000 and $500,000. We can write checks anywhere up to $1 million and $1.5 million. And we'll do that for follow-on investments. And in terms of the best way to get in contact with us, we have an investments inbox. It's just investments@goldhouse.org. You can also contact me directly. My email is, we can list it, but Megan@goldhouse.org, very simple. But Goldhouse hosts a ton of events. And so if you follow us on our social media, that's probably the easiest way, honestly, to stay in touch with all the dozens of events that we host each year for founders.
Awesome. And they are very fabulous events. So as those that are listening.
You might get to meet a celebrity.
Yes. Yes. Your Rolodex is pretty fabulous. But it's been intentional. These are people that care about the Asian Pacific community. They care about the way capital is being deployed. And it's been beautiful to see how there's a real sense of all boats rise.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, that's been very cool. What's the thing that keeps you up at night? And what's the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning?
Oh man, I think it's one and the same. I think
Ooh,
the short
look at
answer
you.
is it's our founders. I think versus traditional early stage portfolios, we have a larger number of companies that we work with. And so for me, what keeps me up at night is worrying that I haven't spent enough time with each of our founders. And that's, I think, something that every investor kind of faces because, you want to be out there building your brand and sometimes you have to be fundraising for your next fund. But the real priority at the end of the day is what you can be doing for your founders. And so that's definitely what keeps me up at night.
Yeah. So how do you combat that? Are you on WhatsApp with them all the time? Are you office hours each day? Are you checking in? What does it look like? What's a day in Megan's world?
It's definitely a mix. I think the way that I want to be helpful to founders is really dependent on their preference. I don't want to ever impose a format or a cadence of contacting them that might not work for them.
Yeah.
So my general policy is if I'm offering my help, I'm going to be very expansive with you and say, here is a whole menu of options that you have to choose from. But if I'm asking for something, let's say I need some data or some information about their company, I will be as specific and targeted as possible to make it as easy and quick for them to answer me as it can be. And I think that's how I've tried to streamline things. But it really ranges. Some of my founders were on a texting basis. We text at random odd hours. Others, it's, a monthly or bi-monthly phone call or Zoom. Others I mainly see, at our bigger events.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you have that flexibility built in because they are so busy. And I even think about we're just one investor on the cap table. Like, if they're getting the calls from us, how many calls are they getting from the other investors being like, hey, just want to check in?
I know.
And so we're always mindful of like, are we truly adding value or are we just, having them jump on a call to jump on a call?
Exactly. And I want to avoid that.
Yeah. The other thing we've started doing is having calls with other of the investors with the founders. So it's not a big, it's not the like investor call, the quarterly or such call, but there's one or two where like we know that other co-investor very well. And so the two of us will get on a call and that way she can, get one call done at a time.
That's super interesting.
So I'm trying to do some more of that. So who knows, I might see you on some calls.
Yeah,
we'll be
exactly.
in some of the same deals. What's next?
For Gold House Ventures.
Gold House, your community.
The next big thing on our horizon is our second fund. So we have just kicked off our fundraise.
Girl, it's a crazy time to be in the market. I mean, 3 snaps to that.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits that we have, and this is definitely true in raising Fund 1, and hopefully true as well in Fund 2, is that the strength of the Gold House network is just unparalleled. We raised our Fund 1. We were targeting a $20 million fund, and we ended up raising 30 in like 2 months. And I think a lot of that was on the strength.
Wait, what?
Yes. And
okay, we're going to go back to that and have you explain to viewers how that happened. But
well, I think I guess my high level
2 months. Wait, did you do a lot of stuff in stealth first and be like, hey, this is coming, get ready?
I wouldn't say we did stuff in stealth. I would say there was a lot of appetite from our network and our members and our supporters. And so it was almost like a pull to raise the fund. We had kind of the pull from our founders saying, you've been so helpful through the Accelerator. Can we like pledge shares? Gold House is a nonprofit. Is there any way that we can, give shares to the nonprofit? So that was an impetus. So we were like, we need a formal structure to ingest all of that. And then we had our members who were saying, we've spent so much time with these companies. We love working with them. We have independent relationships with them. But wouldn't it be great to have a vehicle that others could invest in this great group of founders that you guys have sourced? all together.
This is it in action.
This is the power of the network in action.
This is the community.
I think the thing that our founders, I often get this question. It's like, how do you manage such a network? How do you manage, 80 portfolio companies in Fund 1? How do you manage hundreds of founders in your network? And it's honestly not our small team of 5, right? It's not me and my 2 partners and our 2 operating team members.
Yeah.
It's the rest of the Gold House Foundation team, our marketing, events, growth teams. But it's also our, dozens of volunteer fellows who spend hours and hours each week volunteering pro bono, part-time, because they believe in Gold House's mission. It's the hundreds of thousands of followers that we have across the ecosystem who are putting in their time, their energy, their money into these companies. And so we're definitely not alone in this. And I think in terms of how that benefits our founders, it means that most introductions that they would need are one call or one email away. I think a lot of our accelerator companies have come in, pre-seed, barely have a product working, and saying, I'm building this delivery business. Can you connect me to someone? And us saying, yes, Tony Shu of DoorDash is an LP. The founder of Caviar is in our network. Let's get you on a call with them. Let's make sure that you have the right expertise that's unblocking things for you right away.
Yeah, this is so inspiring, not only to me, but to our listeners and our viewers. And it's just a reminder that we really have to lean into community. And even when we were putting this segment together, I and the producer just kept coming back to this notion of community. And at first it sounded kind of cheesy, but I was like, no, it's such a powerful thing. Like, we have to talk about it and showcase it. And then that's when I was like, Megan's got to come on. We got to get Megan, whatever her schedule's like. Because I think we get so in our own world, in our own to-do list. And it's like, we have to make that time to be a blessing to someone else, to take that phone call, right? Mm-hmm. To like pass on that information or make that introduction. And a lot of what you're talking about is what you guys you're doing that. And now we see the fruits and the benefits of that. Okay, so when I asked you the question, what's next, you said Fund 2. What's the goal for Fund 2? How do we support you?
So we're raising a target $60 million fund. We are making lots of great progress already. I've spoken to most of our existing LPs that are coming back, as well as a lot of new ones. And I think having sat on the other side, having been an LP for, 4, almost 5 years, it really has been beneficial to my own fundraising journey now as GP, in knowing how much relationship building and value that you need to show and prove, and the trust that you have to build before you can even broach the topic of asking anyone for money. I think it's just a order of operations. I actually think there are a lot of parallels to this process of fundraising, as there were to actually initially building the fund. We couldn't have built Gold House Ventures had we not already spent years building our network of VCs across all the Asian VCs in the ecosystem. If we hadn't already had Gold House's amazing member network, our founder network, we wouldn't have had the sourcing model that we do. That's right. And so you have to kind of be willing to invest and lay the groundwork for quite a while before you can kind of reap the rewards. So I'm hoping that is also how this fundraise goes.
Yeah. I love that you spoke about trust. And I think that's probably where the storytelling comes in as well, because it's not so much longevity, right? It's not that like I have to know you for 12 years before I'll write a check. It's like, how do we tell stories and connect human to human to get to a level of trust that then gets me and you comfortable that we can do something together. Mm-hmm. Let me flip it a little bit, but in this theme of trust and community, while we have a few minutes left, we're in a beautiful, crazy time in America, globally, and yet there's still so much division and strife. How do you and I, two women of color, both running fabulous organizations with fabulous communities, what can we be doing together to like help our communities and how we show up together?
I am so glad you asked that. There is a line in Gold House's mission, and it says, "To power tomorrow for all." That is how our mission statement ends. I don't think there was ever a moment in time when the founding members of Gold House believed that we should build an organization by Asians for Asians. I think it was always for all multicultural communities together. And you've seen that in a lot of the other work that we've started to do, especially on the founder side and increasingly so on the entertainment and narrative change side, where we're shifting more to this idea of one house. We no longer brand everything Gold House. A lot of times when we're doing Oscars toasts or Emmys toasts, or our board placement program for founders is called the One House Leadership Coalition. And that's because we're partnering with other multicultural funds, Harlem Capital, Kapoor, MAC, even the NAACP. We're looking to source talent and opportunities across the ecosystem because we will soon be majority minority. And so I think building those bridges now, like even if, everything we're doing now is just paving the way for us being better together as a unit in the future. So I think as investors, we should be prioritizing each other when we're supporting our founders, sharing our best deals, helping each other fundraise. I think that's like the best thing we can do.
That's right. And, Wocstar, which stands for Women of Color, our belief and mission and how we invest is with a female forward mindset. And so, yes, some are men founders or co-founders, but it comes with a female forward lens. So I can definitely see a world where we're working together on some deals. And something, I don't even know if I've told you about this, but we have a new segment to Wocstar called Wocstar Media, because we too believe the power of storytelling. And we saw it when we were fundraising, just even people not really having appreciation or knowledge of there's some really cool women tech innovators and CEOs and founders. And so it was just this aha moment of we have to tell the stories of people of color differently as a way to, address some of those gaps in knowledge about, the possibility and the things that are exciting to be investing in. So I could see us collaborating there in some way. So
I am sure
more to come. You and I are going to have more coffee talk, and we're going to let our viewers and readers know more about that. But I think the go forward is really this collaboration of community. So I love that. That's in the DNA of what you do and what you get up and go to bed thinking about.
It is indeed.
Any final thoughts? Any last words to leave our founders and investors?
I think just a sense of gratitude for this community. I think in New York especially, it feels like there's such a heartbeat right now of investors working together and being truly collaborative. I don't think I've seen this, at least in my career. And I definitely don't hear stories about that from my mentors from past years of how VC worked. So I'm very grateful for what the environment looks like today.
I love it. This is so inspiring. I want to go out and do something. I don't know what, but I'm inspired. I'm inspired. You inspired me. I knew there was a reason we needed to have you on the show.
Aww.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This episode of VCs Off the Record is brought to you by Wocstar Ghetto Film School Entrepreneurial Academy. All right, so that was a great conversation that you had. And ding, ding, I was right. She talked about narrative. Ring the bell when you're right. She talked about narrative and how important it is. It's even deeper. She goes even deeper into how she's trying to change the story on so many levels. And so much of what they're doing is like what we're doing with educating entrepreneurs,
telling powerful stories.
What was your takeaway from it?
My final thoughts and my takeaways were, one, that as women, we don't have to apologize for being multidimensional. We don't have to just stay in one lane and be like, I'm an investor, and then that's all you do. She is really a systems change maker. And so to do that, you have to address different parts of the system. So, this is very selfish on my part maybe, but my takeaway was this feeling and being inspired that like, yeah, it's okay if we're working in a couple different areas around the same issue, because that's what it's going to take to really change systems and society and market realities for people. The second one was, this was a proving conversation for me about community. And even got me thinking about what can I be doing differently to show up in community and be community for others. And so if you're listening, if you're watching, come back, connect with us, because I want us to figure out how we be community to each other, how we be a blessing to each other, and how we activate the power of our community.
See, that's what I keyed into, because when she talked about the quickness and the swiftness that they raised, the number they raised.
2 months.
Okay. It wasn't pulling teeth. It wasn't there, so there's something to the intentionality, and there is something about the speed to which that I want to, once the lights go down, I want us to get together and really talk about that and say, how do we activate like that?
Yeah.
Right? How do we ring the bell so that people hear it?
That's right.
Because I think
I love that.
we can ring the bell, and if we're not in the right frequency, right? Someone won't hear it.
That's right. They're on a different channel.
And I love that. I love, I heard a quote yesterday. If you go through the wrong door, it's better to admit that than stay in the wrong room.
Say that again.
Okay. It's better to admit when you've gone through the wrong door as opposed to staying in the wrong room.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Wow.
Right.
Could you tell that to my 13-year-old self?
Yeah.
My 23-year-old self?
Yeah. To myself right now.
Yeah, to myself right now.
To myself right now. Because it's like, if all fund managers, all producers, all people who are trying to do something, if you're not getting the response you want, change the frequency, change the message, change, just so that, because it's there, obviously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. And we need to hear that, particularly women, underrepresented communities, because I think we spend, maybe I'll just speak for myself, we spend time trying to get into rooms where we think are the right rooms because others are there, the bros are there, mainstream America is there. And those may not be the rooms we need to be in. So I love that you said that. And I love that you used the idea of rooms, right? Because we're always trying to get invited to this club, that membership, this room, that campus. And maybe that's not the room for us.
All right, it was good to see you today.
You too.
Right.
I'm so inspired. I want to go and
raise money,
some community building.
See me? I say raise money. You say community building. What is happening? What is happening?
We're flipping
let's go raise money.
Flipping the script. I love it.
All right.
I love it.
Catch you next time, guys.
Catch you next time. Stay fabulous.
Thanks for hanging with us. This podcast was produced by Wocstar Media in New York City at the Podstream Studios. Be sure to follow VCs Off the Record on Apple and Spotify. We're also on Sheconomy, the State of Women podcast platform. Please consider giving us a good review or share it with someone. Let us know what you want us to talk about on our socials and our YouTube channel. You can find us at wocstar.com for all the information.